Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. Hello everybody, welcome to Two Saints at the Euros podcast today, with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. Afternoon, Mark. How you doing?
Afternoon, yeah. Doing well. Obviously, I hope everybody's enjoying the fine weather we're having and taking care of one another. And thanks for tuning in and giving us a listen.
Absolutely. So, obviously, we gave you the ways of accessing the podcast before we did the introductions. So, just to remind you of the email address once again, which is the Two Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com. That's for any questions around Saints or features you might like to see on the podcast. So we've obviously told you the ways to access that and we'll move on from there. We know it's still early on, but we also have the Two Saints Fantasy Premier League open again for those who'd like to join this year. There is a Classic League and the code is MQAFOS. And also there's a head-to-head league and the code for that is I4FD0Y. So you're joining at fantasy.premierleague.com. So, coming up in this week's podcast show, we have the Two Saints review of Wales 1, Denmark 4, and England 2, Germany 0. Saints club news, other football news, and Saints transfer gossip. So, we're going to take a very short break. We'll be straight back after that. From Thursday the 17th of June, we're bringing you Two Saints at the Euros, which will run for the duration of the competition. It will feature games involving England, Scotland, Denmark and Poland. Because some of these involve Saints players, we will have regular features like Saints club news, other football news and Saints transfer gossip. Still broadcasting on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton, Thursday 1 to 3 PM and via onlineradiobox.com. Right, welcome back everyone. So the Two Saints review of Wales 0, Denmark 4. Who saw that one coming? They got absolutely walloped, Mark. Fair play to Denmark, but I tell you what, Wales must have been shell-shocked. They got absolutely thrashed.
All I would say about the game, mate, and you know, obviously I did sit and watch it. I was probably the only person on the planet.
And you might have been actually.
Being a Celt, you know, I'm probably the only person outside of Wales that was actually cheering them on. But yeah. Having said that, I mean, Denmark richly deserved the victory. Yeah. You can't say that they didn't. I think one of Wales's downfalls on the day was their indiscipline. And that showed from fairly early on. We're talking about the 18th minute when Joe Rodon was being cautioned and I really felt that there was no structure. There was much more togetherness, obviously, of the Denmark team. You know, the work ethic, working together. I mean, they don't really, you know, to my mind, they don't really have any superstars as such, especially now Ericsson, you know, isn't at the tournament anymore, so to speak. But the thing is what they've got is a good work ethic. You know, our friend Mala scored one of the goals against the Sport.
That's 2-2 now. 2-2 games.
I think that was their third goal he scored. But the other interesting thing was the youngster Damsgaard. I know he only had one assist. He seems to be making a name for himself during the tournament. I think he's only 19, 20, something like that. And the ironic thing was that obviously the game was held in Amsterdam in the Ajax Arena. And strangely enough, one of the heroes of the game was Kasper Dolberg, who funnily enough came through the Ajax youth system. So no wonder, everybody, it seemed, in the stadium was sort of rooting for Denmark. But as I say, Dahlberg scored 2, obviously, and Braithwaite, who I haven't been that enamoured with during the tournament, but he scored. He rounded off the scoring. But really, at the end of the day, I mean, it was a richly deserved victory for Denmark. I mean, that's all you can say, and it was a bit of a rout. But I think the rout nature of the Danish victory, was added to by, and it was part of Wales's downfall on the day, was the indiscipline of Wales. I mean, we've seen Harry Wilson, I think it was, being sent off in the 90th minute. And I was surprised, funnily enough, that somebody didn't go, with a red card before that, if I'm perfectly honest, Mark. And I'm talking about within the Welsh team. I just felt like it was very much, from their point of view, it was very much, a disjointed performance. But I don't want to take anything away from the Danish performance, because, it was richly deserved, and it'll be interesting, to see kind of what happens in the tournament going forward. I mean, potentially, they could be having a semi-final with England, and we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, just thinking about it, I think Wales, and this will tell you, they got 4 yellow cards. As I say, Joe Rodon got cautioned fairly early doors. Gareth Bale got a card as well. Yep. David Brooks, that came on as a substitute, he got a card. And Kiefer Moore got a yellow card. And then obviously, if you take into consideration that Harry Wilson had only been on the field for about half hour, because he came on as the second half sub, and he managed to get himself a red card. I mean, that kind of tells you the level of the indiscipline that was going on with the Welsh.
Even after the game or whatever, I mean, Gareth Bale being interviewed, stormed off an interview, didn't he?
Yeah, well, but the thing is, Mark, I thought the interview, just touching on that, I mean, I thought the interview was fairly insensitive. Yep. You don't turn around after the raw emotions of being knocked out of a tournament. Exactly. I mean, I'm not, Gareth Bale sometimes can cut a bit of a strange figure, because the thing is, I mean, whether it's a difficult one, because I'm a bit of a Gareth Bale fan. Unlike a lot of these people that say, bring him home. I mean, I think he did contribute to Saints before he left, which is an important thing to say. But all I would say is, I mean, obviously he loves playing for Wales. That's obvious, right? And to stick a microphone in somebody's face, fair enough, talk about the game. But in the raw emotion of you being knocked out, don't turn around and ask somebody whether they're going to, whether the international career is going to continue or not. I mean, I just thought the question was slightly insensitive.
Would they,
given that they've just been knocked out of a major?
Would they have asked? Did they ask Cristiano Ronaldo the same question after Portugal got knocked out? No, they didn't.
Of course they didn't, because he's a darling of the he's a darling of the he's the darling of the pundits. If you sat and watched the preview for the Euros, I mean, it was adulation centre on the BBC to Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, they could have done a whole programme just talking about him.
Yeah, in all fairness, it was a definite loving, wasn't it? Certainly wasn't in Gareth Bale's case, so I felt sorry for him. And they're both world-class players as well.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it goes without saying. I just don't like, whenever I see people going over the top about certain things, but I did, like I've said, I had all the sympathy in the world for Gareth Bale when that question was asked. I thought,
Definitely.
what a ridiculous question. I mean, it's a typical kind of media pundits type question they ask. But asking it, let the dust settle. You know what I mean? Let the dust, if you want an answer to that question, let the dust settle. You don't ask it straight after a game where emotions are running high. But emotions are running high after you come off the pitch.
Well, in all fairness, Mark, we've seen it in the tennis. Naomi Osaka in the tennis saying, I don't want to do any interviews and whatever. She actually pulled out of the French Open because of the media pressure. Because she said, speaking to somebody after they've lost is like kicking them while they're down. And it was exactly the same for Gareth Bale. He didn't want to talk about it. He wasn't thinking about that at the moment. It was raw emotion. He was upset Wales had lost. You don't ask him that question.
No, but the other thing is let's put the refocus back on Denmark and say congratulations to big Vestergaard, and let's hope that the Danish can go further into the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. We want them in the final.
If not for the sake of the Danes, then for the sake of this podcast, because otherwise we're going to have nothing to talk about.
Or for the sake of England. We want Denmark in the final. Do we?
Obviously, England is, but you want the Danes to stay in as long as possible.
In fairness, I'm not sure we want Denmark in the final. Actually, Mark.
No. But
sure we want Denmark in the final. Yeah, we'll see on that one, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, all I would say is, Wales's indiscipline was their downfall.
Absolutely.
During the game and on the day. Also, you'd have to say a lack of any sort of creativity. I mean, Kiefer Moore must have been pulling his hair out. But having said all of that, the Danes were dominant. You got to say the Danes, whatever else was going on, the Danes were dominant. The performance, was excellent, and the 4-0 victory was richly deserved.
Absolutely right.
And good luck to Saint, Vestergaard for the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
Or for the rest of the tournament.
Yep. And we've spoken about the indiscipline of the Welsh, and the fact it cost them a result. I think it's fair to say when we go to the next game, which we'll be doing very shortly after a short break, when we review England-Germany, it was England's discipline that actually paid off in the end. So we'll come back to that one in a moment. Just going to take a short break, everyone. And we'll do the Two Saints review of England 2, Germany 0. You heard me correctly. England 2, Germany 0 in the knockout stages of a major championship.
The Two Saints podcast show will still run over the summer, featuring Saints players at the Euros and regular features such as Saints club news, Saints transfer gossip and other football news. Ways to access the podcast are: just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the Two Saints podcast show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the Two Saints podcast show is now available via Spotify, Cloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, the Two Saints review of England 2, Germany 0. All I'm going to say on this one was, up until England scored their first goal, I have never, ever been so bored watching a football match. I was bored stiff. It wasn't a classic, by any means. Quite a poor German team. England, I felt, struggled for most of the game to create anything of note as such. Jordan Pickford, I thought, had a really good game again. Didn't let England down. Made a couple of crucial saves. And Germany obviously guilty of a gilt-edged chance that they didn't take. So for me, I thought it was quite boring up until England scored, but after that, it was a completely different game. What was your take on it, Mark? And obviously, we beat Germany in a major tournament in the knockout stages for once. It's important to emphasise that.
At this point, I just want to turn around and say you can definitely tell who the Englishman is in this double act. But
I don't know what you're on about.
Anyway, my take on it was, obviously I was glued to it because the importance of the result, as it turned out, wasn't lost on me in terms of how deep England can go into the tournament, and it certainly opened up for the next round with Ukraine waiting in wait.
Golden opportunity.
But all I would say is 5 years ago, Iceland was a golden opportunity, and we've seen what happened there. Anyway, the thing is the other, I suppose, going just into the game, I would say the first 20 minutes, England looked shaky to me. Germany probably had the better of the early exchanges, and at that point, you'd kind of start to worry. But I did feel that after that, England grew into the game. All right, it wasn't necessarily a classic in the sense of, things didn't necessarily change that much until, the master stroke of Jack Grealish coming on. And, he proved me wrong because of any of the creative footballers, I probably would have went with Phil Foden. Plus, as you're intermittent there, one of the reasons why I'm not necessarily the biggest Jack Grealish fan, I recognise his talents.
We all recognise that.
But little bit of a diver, and thankfully, the one thing that you can say is he stayed on his feet, in terms of the game, and he came on, and you've got to say that he may have only come on for the last half hour, but he was the most influential person in the game.
In fairness, Mark, I'll give Jack Grealish credit, because on this occasion I actually thought he was going to go down quite a lot when he came on, because it was against the Germans, and you thought, he's probably going to get away with a couple against Germany because, it's Germany, and he'll probably get away with it, and he probably will try it because it's Germany. But I thought he actually showed how intelligent a footballer he is, rather than, and that was his strength when he came on. I thought he played quite intelligently, and that made the difference. He used a bit of a football brain that he's got, and it was good to see that other side of his game, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I totally endorse those comments you just made in relation to him. The other thing that I would say is that, for me personally, my man of the match, because they gave man of the match to Harry Maguire, and I was, bit like you were right to mention Jordan Pickford, because those saves that he did make came at crucial times for...
I've got my man in the match, which I think you'll be surprised at, Mark. I'll tell you why I'm saying it.
No. My man of the match was Luke Shaw.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with somebody you might be surprised at, but I'll explain why I'm going with this player, okay? I'm going to say Calvin Phillips, and I'll tell you why. Because in the second half, he managed to contain a German midfield that contained Mario Goretzka and Toni Kroos. And that is no mean feat. If you can contain those two, you've had a pretty decent game. So I'm giving it to Calvin Phillips.
I'll give you Goretzka, but I think Toni Kroos he's been on the wane for a while, mate, to be fair. But look, I'll give you, at the end of the day, like we can now point out, and I'm sure everybody is aware of, first tournament win against Germany since '66.
55 years, everybody. But if you want to know me, everyone, guess where we beat Germany in '66?
Yeah, but everybody knows that, Mark. Everybody knows that. I mean, look, the idea. I posted something up on Facebook, and all I was doing was congratulating England, and people are saying, let's not get way ahead. Who was getting way ahead of themselves and just said, well done, England, you got the time.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, the only people getting ahead of themselves, Mark, are the pundits. It's actually the fans that are quite down to earth at the moment, feet on the ground. It's the pundits that are getting carried away.
It is definitely the pundits, but then when I seen the reaction on Facebook, I thought, hang on a minute, nobody's getting carried away here. We're just saying, I just said, well done. But, as I say, the idea is to try and get deep into the tournament. And the thing is, you know, Gareth Southgate got his tactics spot on. Although I was expecting for him to bring Foden on, you know, he brings on Tony Grealish, Jack Grealish. Tony Grealish, unfortunately, was a Brighton player who unfortunately has died now. But no, Jack Grealish, you know, he comes on and he basically creates the 2 goals, albeit from a great pass from Luke Shaw for the first one. But you know, all I would say as well is, I'm going to champion him probably now till the end of the tournament. But great to see that Raheem Sterling again scoring. You never know, might be in contention for the Golden Boot. He's got some way to go to match the Czech striker though. But you know, all I would say is at the end of the day, it's a tournament football. I understand that there's a little bit of frustration where fans are maybe expecting a little bit more, and I get that given the players that you've got. But I tend to just think to myself, you know, Gareth Southgate's probably sat there going, you know, forget all the hullabaloo and everything else. Let's try and get ourselves into contention for to be in a semi-final or in a final. And then let's take it from there, because, you know, once you get to the Final Four, it really comes down to on the day. And the thing is whether you have the better players or not is kind of irrelevant, really, because it's all about how you perform on the day and stuff like that, you know, and that's just the nature of football.
Yeah, absolutely right. I agree with that. Well, Stuart Pearce said that Stuart Pearce is quite confident if Gareth Southgate doesn't reach at least the semi-finals and the final, he'll be disappointed.
Oh no, you know, looking at the draw now, I can understand that. Yep. Obviously, as well, it's important to mention that it was good, given some of the rubbish that I've seen being spoken about Harry Kane. It was good to see Harry Kane getting off the mark. You know what I mean?
The amazing thing was, it looked as though it lifted a weight off of him and every single person at Wembley. I think every single person, to a man and woman and child, reacted exactly the same way Harry Kane did. They were all like, "Oh, what a relief!" And that might ignite him. Who knows? I mean, he could play blinder for the rest of the tournament. Let's hope he does.
100%. I mean, hopefully,
it certainly lit the touch paper at Wembley, didn't it? Yeah. Ronnie, the reactions were crazy. Limbs everywhere.
You know, like you say, Mark. Hopefully that, you know, that the fact that he's now off the mark, you know, that brings him more into the tournament, and you know, and he's back to doing what he does best, which is putting the ball in the back of the net.
I thought he took the goal brilliantly, to be fair. It wasn't easy, but he took it brilliantly.
Oh, 100%.
And it just sealed it. Wasn't it? What an emphatic way to seal it for England. Like, absolutely emphatic, wasn't it, the way he put it away? And the crowd just, well, I've never seen a reaction like that at Wembley. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. What scenes? Very similar to scenes that I'm sure you've experienced as a Northern Ireland fan in the Euros, Mark.
Yeah, not yeah, one day.
Yeah, well, you know, we'll take it. Yeah. It was only one day at Wembley against Germany. We haven't got anywhere yet.
All I would say is it, you know, it was a 2-0 win against Ukraine. So I'm very expecting the pressure's on all on you, England, to be fair.
Absolutely, yeah, no pressure then.
You know, if we can beat them 2-0 in the European Championships, I'm expecting you to double that at home.
Wow, wouldn't that be nice?
Well, no,
unfortunately, in Rome.
You're not at home, you're in Rome. In Rome.
Yeah, it is going to be just like that line from the Three Lions, one night in Rome, because it will be one night in Rome.
Well, I am expecting you to win 2-0 or to better the scoreline.
Well, there you go, everybody. You've had Mark's prediction there. I'm not going to be that bold.
You know, but hang on. There's so much talk up of the England team. You know, I've got to turn around and say, if we can beat them 2-0 in France in a major tournament, I'm expecting England to do something similar.
I'll be, in all fairness to you, look, semi-final at Wembley, final at Wembley. What is there not to get motivated? You've got the Ukraine in the quarterfinals. If you can't get to the semi-final after you've beaten Germany, not a great German side, I'll give them that, but if you can't do it after you've beaten one of your rivals in a game that means that much to everybody, and you're not up for the next one, you don't deserve to be there anyway. So give it everything.
I'm sure the players are up for it, and given the situation with the England manager and him playing, and I know Gareth's way too modest. He always talks about the team and everything else, but I'm sure that laid a few ghosts to rest for him on Tuesday.
That was my first thought. He's laid to rest the ghosts of '96. We've beaten Germany at Wembley in a major tournament. We haven't lost on penalties. Nobody's missed a penalty. We've beaten them fair and square. So fantastic. He's laid some ghosts to rest. And I saw how much it meant to him. At one more point, they showed him and Jordan Henderson on the touchline when the second goal went in. And they both ran to each other, gave a massive hug. And then Gareth suddenly went, oh, hang on a minute, I've got a bit more professional. But it was a good reaction. So fantastic for England. And we'll move on from there. So very short break, everybody. And then we're going to do Saints Club news.
Two Saints at the Euros.
Right, welcome back, everybody. And we now move on to Saints Club news for anybody that's been missing it. Soccer schools return for the summer holidays. Discounted package is available for the Saints programme. Trophy draw, Southampton Football Club beating 21-22. Southampton FC women duo receive England under-19s call-up. Australia Tokyo 2020 Olympic squad, Caleb Watts has been called up. Season tickets remain in balance. St Mary's to host screening of England's quarter-final. Saints reveal goalkeeper kits and appreciation of Charles White. So, starting with soccer schools return for the summer holidays, Mark, which is really, really good news. So, summer holidays around the corner. Give your kids a chance to improve their skills. The return of the Saints soccer schools. Don't miss out on booking a place with availability across July and August. You can explore the full programme of summer soccer schools with courses available at a wide range of locations for children aged 5 to 13. This year, for the first time ever, they will be integrating Southampton Football Club's coaching philosophy into the sessions, meaning kids will receive the same tactical and technical tips as Ralph Hasenhutl's first team. I'm not sure that's a good thing or not, Mark. I'm just joking. So, book your soccer schools now through the Saints website, everyone.
Hang on, Mark.
I'm joking when I say that.
Saints FC are trying to say that that's a selling point. It's not as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, the other thing I was going to say was so basically, parents, if you've got a little Jenny or a little Johnny in the family,
or a little
there's something to do over the summer holidays. Obviously, you would need to go and look on the club's website. Yeah. But obviously, there's something that, to get your darlings out of your hair for a while during the summer holidays.
So move on to the next article, which I think is a really good one, Mark, and I know it's an article that you'll be interested in as well. You can actually now purchase, so if you want to top up your 2020-21 programme collection, you've got less than a week to take advantage of big savings on the club publication. So publishers Ignition Sports Media are clearing the shelves on the 1st of July in anticipation of a bumper season. All 14 editions from the 2020-21 season are available from their Saints collection online, all of which include a feature interview with the cover star, while the special Welcome Back Collector's Edition wraps up the season as a whole and includes chats with a range of Saints stars past and present. Fans can take advantage also of a £5 discount code when purchasing 4 or more items, which is 33% off or just over. Simply type in Fiverr at the checkout when prompted.
All I would say about that, Mark, is I already have all the home programmes from last season.
I know you might have some.
The thing is I'm sure as you read that out, people are aware that there was only actually 14 home programmes published. None for any of the cup.
And you've only got You've only got to the end of today, everybody.
But obviously, you've got only league games, no cup games, no programmes were issued in the FA Cup or the League Cup or the Carabao Cup, as it's now called, for the Brentford game. So you're talking about 14 league games now. I know that's not every programme, because normally it would be 19. But the thing is they stopped production from, I think it was round about mid-February, and basically they didn't produce any home programmes from mid-February. I think it was after the Chelsea home game, and then obviously they brought the programme back for the fans' return for the Leeds home game at the end of the season. So there was only 14 home league games basically issued.
Okay, thanks for the information, Mark. So we'll move on to the next article relating to Southampton's B team, or the under-23s as we know. So the B team have been drawn in Group C for this season's EFL Trophy, Group G, alongside Charlton, Crawley and Leyton Orient. So they're one of 16 invited Premier League teams to take part in the competition, where they'll face off against clubs from League 1 and League 2 for a successive season. The first round of fixtures will take place across Tuesday, 31st of August and Wednesday, the 1st of September. Full details regarding the group stage fixtures will be announced in due course. So another opportunity to get along and watch the youngsters.
Right, so here's where I am, Mark. So this is the 6th year that the B team, the under-23s, have obviously played in the new format of the tournament. It's the 6th season, and Saints have qualified out of the group once. So am I holding out any expectations for any sort of trip to Wembley with the B team? Probably not. My greatest hope going into playing the opponents, which obviously are Charlton, Crawley and Leyton Orient, but my greatest hope out of that little lot would be, let's at least try and get out of the group. And that would be a step forward, even given the performances of the B team last season, whether it was in the league, this competition, or any other competition.
I'll settle for even less.
What would you say?
One home win will do for me.
I think normally we play most of the games away. I don't even think we play at home. But
one win.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty low base, mate. To be fair, as I say, we've got out of the group once, and I would just hope that getting out of the group would be a stepping stone and maybe give us something positive. Because these games get played early season.
Yeah.
It would be a positive thing going on to for the rest of the season for the B team.
Definitely. So moving on, talking of representation, obviously, Southampton FC women will once again be represented at England Women's Under-19s training camp in July. Saints duo of Lucia Kendall and Millie Mott will join up with the young Lionesses for a second successive month. They also took part in June's camp last weekend. So it's looking good for both of them, and we're hoping they'll move on from there and they'll actually get into the team and play as well. So fantastic news.
The whole idea of these training camps obviously are to assess the players, assess the abilities, and then how they would fit into the structure of obviously how they want to play. And
absolutely,
it's obvious that both girls have made an impression with the England management team that's there for the under-19. So let's hope that, obviously the girls build on what they did with England last month, and both Southampton girls, pushed get a start, for England within the under-19 setup.
Yep.
But for me, it's another feather in the cap to the Saints women's team.
Certainly. And also talking of feathers in your cap, Caleb Watts, the youngster from Saints Academy, the men's youngster Caleb Watts, has been named in Australia's 18-man Olympic squad for Tokyo 2020. He went from strength to strength this season with Saints made his senior debut for the club against Shrewsbury in the FA Cup. A week later, made his Premier League debut, replacing Danny Ings on the bench against Arsenal. The Oularoos will return to the Olympic Arena for the first time since Beijing 2008, with what's now given the opportunity to make a name for himself on the international stage. I had no idea he was Australian or had Australian heritage. So there you go.
No, he's definitely 100%.
So I'm sure he'll have a bit of spring in his step now.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say about this is I mean, obviously, it's great for a person of that age to go and represent their country at the Olympics, and you know, it's a great achievement for Caleb Watts to do it. The one thing that I would say as well is that, I mean, my hope would be, if he's going to the Olympics, you know, please use him, Australia, you know, give him the exposure, because, you know, you never know how much he might be needed for Saints next season. And obviously, if he's getting games while he's away, that's great. I'd have a reservation, obviously, if he's going to be sat on the bench making up the numbers, but my hope is that he gets some sort of exposure from playing in the Olympics, and then obviously he comes back to Southampton, you know, and makes, you know, the same sort of progression that he made last season, and makes the odd appearance here and there for Saints' first team, because at the end of the day, you know, it's a great achievement to get picked to play at the Olympics, but for one of that age, and I look at it purely from a Saints point of view, it's about the development of the player as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that, 100%. So, season tickets, remaining balances, everybody. With the Premier League season fast approaching, Saints fans can now finalise payment for their 2021-22 season tickets, with the club confirming how those that have paid a deposit can pay the remaining balance. Club's now opening the payment process for remaining balances, with step 4 of the government's roadmap out of lockdown due to end on Monday, 19th July. Following that, large capacity events being held across the country in the upcoming weeks, the Premier League's aiming to return to full capacities as soon as possible. Supporters can make payment for their remaining balance from today through their My Saints account by heading to reserve tickets or by calling the ticket office on the usual number 02381 780 780 between 9:30am 5pm Monday to Friday. Deadline to pay the remaining balance is the 19th of July. Fans can pay using one of the methods below: using credit on their ticketing account, payment by card, paying for a combination of credits on their ticketing account and card payment, or spreading their remaining payments over either a 3-month or a newly added 7-month period with no added interest and with no credit check required. For those looking to use a combination of credits and an instalment plan, the club asks you to contact the ticket office directly. You can do this by calling 02381 780 780 or fill out the form on the website to request a callback. Any fans that are yet to secure their seat for the new season can also purchase season tickets through their My Saints account, with prices starting at just £399. By now, to guarantee the best availability for seats you want, remember you can spread the cost of any new purchase over a 3-month or 7-month period. And they're obviously covered by the Saints' promise that if any fixtures played at St Mary's with a limited capacity, season ticket holders are given absolute priority if the stadium capacity is reduced. So there we go. So, moving on from there. That's great news for everybody, and I've just secured mine. Woo! So I'm happy about that. So, St Mary's is to host the screening of England's quarter-final, Mark.
Yeah.
Are we going to be paying premium prices again for being sitting in the fan zone?
Who knows, mate? I seen that obviously the game against Germany was shown at the stadium.
Yep.
The thing is that it was tantalisingly brief, because that was the early game, and apparently, you know, once the game had finished, you sort of left the premises. I see this time round that you can actually go there early, enjoy the early kick-off, and then enjoy, you know, the England game. And obviously it's on the Saturday. That's right. You know, the bars open, stuff like that.
Sorry.
And I believe without looking at it, I believe it's $7.99 or $7.
You can actually, sorry, Mark, you can join your fellow England fans at the screening for £7. It's in the Mick Shannon Lounge. It's £7. You can get a pitcher of beer from 10 quid. Not bad. A pitcher of beer for a tenner. It's not bad. Share it with your mates. Doors are open at 4:45 as well. So as you said, you can take in the pre-match atmosphere and watch the 5 p.m. kickoff Czech Republic Denmark. From the comfort of your own private table for up to 6 people. You'll be able to watch the full match from 2 large projected screens as well as widescreen TVs located around the lounge. And the bar is open till 10:30 p.m. And the lounge will be fully compliant with COVID-19 rules, obviously. So, Saints reveal their 2021-22 goalkeeper kits. I love this, Mark. Throw back to the Admiral kits we had years ago with the flames on them. And I really like the goalkeepers kits because they don't just look like goalkeeper kits, do they? And I know you're pretty keen on the orange one. And I'm pretty keen on the bluey-greeny one.
Yeah, turquoise. Not that you were right the first time, turquoise. But no, I mean, we talked about this, funnily enough, before we started recording the podcast. One of the bonuses for somebody who is larger than life himself, they've obviously decided that rather than just doing up the 2XL on the goalkeeping kits, they're going to go all out, try and see if they can increase a bit of revenue. And thankfully, Hummel have decided that we're going to have sizes up to 5XL. And I've got to be honest, mate, looking at the shirts now, I'm going to be purchasing 1 or 2, but it won't probably be straight away because you got to buy the player shirts first. That's the first priority. But hopefully, throughout the season, I might purchase 1 or 2 of the goalkeeping shirts.
And also, let's not forget everybody.
Right, the first one to be purchased will be the orange one.
And let's not also forget, people, we're still waiting on the much-awaited away shirt and possible third shirt, but we're definitely waiting to see what the away kit is.
Yeah, no, and there will be an away kit and a third kit, man. I'm sure of it. So obviously, it'll be interesting to see what they're like because obviously this is a new take. I mean, if you look at the design, it's a new take for a goalkeeper.
I will be honest, part of me's hoping they go back to an older Hummel colour for the away shirt. I seem to remember they had a yellow and white Saints Hummel kit, away kit.
It did, yeah.
And they had a white with a very pale green on it, which was my favourite Hummel away kit, which I thought was fantastic. So I'm hoping they'll have a bit of a throwback to that one. Because that was a nice kit.
I like the Hummel kits. Probably the problem that I would have had with them were that in term, I like I love the Hummel design, but they were fairly ordinary in the sense of it was canary yellow and a straight white colour, and you would hope for something a little bit more. I mean, it's a little bit like, and I'll go back to the goalkeeping shirts. Normally goalkeeping shirt, it's green, right, or it's yellow. Or recently they've decided to bring in like a salmon-y type coloured one for Saints goalkeepers. And obviously with the design the way it is now, obviously you get a lighter shade and a darker shade of each colour on the goalkeeping shirts. And like you said, the flame effect, to me, that makes those goalkeeping shirts more sellable.
Yeah.
Than what a goalkeeping shirt normally looks like. I mean, if they're enticing me to part with my money, and I'm, normally I look at the goalkeeping kits and I think, bog standard, not interested. Apart from the fact that the badge is on there, that's the only thing that would draw any sort of attention. But now we've got this, and you're drawn towards it. So obviously, like you say, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with for the away shirt and the third shirt.
Definitely. So moving on. Club historian David Ball remembers Second World War Saint Charles White, who has died aged 98. Charles is pictured in the centre of the back row in the above picture on the Saints website, alongside his Southampton teammates in 1940-41. The death 2 summers ago of 99-year-old Arthur House meant that Charles White, the successor in Saints' goal of 1940-41, became the oldest living ex-Saint. With Southampton to report that following a short illness, Charles has died in his Andover care home 4 months short of his 99th birthday. He came from a footballing family in 1887. His grandfather, Alfred Fry, played for St Mary's in the club's first 2 competitive matches ever. The opening rounds of the Hampshire Junior Cup, a trophy that the Saints would go on to win in the 1920s. Alfred's son-in-law, John White, Charles' father, would represent Hampshire and spend 2 seasons on Portsmouth's books. Charles would have just the 1 season in the Saints' goal before enlisting and being posted to East Africa to set up Flying Boat Command, initially in Kenya, latterly in the Seychelles. In 2018, he had a double reunion day with his wartime club, a tour of the stadium hosted by Supporter Relations, followed by a visit to Arthur House's Shirley home, arranged by the club historians. The historians then introduced both of these 1940 goalkeepers to the Premier League's education project on professional footballers who served in the Second World War. Both were among the 11 veterans duly filmed. Charles reminisced about the flying boats heading out from the Seychelles to patrol the Indian Ocean in particular and make sure there were no Japanese submarines underneath trying to get into Europe. Mission accomplished. Charles John White, 8th of October 1922 to the 9th of June 2021. An appreciation. Thank you very much for your service to the club, Charles White.
Well read, mate. As I say, it's a sad time because obviously he was the oldest surviving Saint, so now the baton will get passed on to someone else. But yeah, as I say, sad. But yeah, apart from that, that's the end. So people, that's the end of Southampton, our Saints club news. And we'll be straight back with other football news.
We will, and we start in the Premier League.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, Premier League news. Arsenal defender Kieran Tierney signs new long-term deal reported to be 5 years. Nathan Collins, Burnley signs Stoke City defender on a 4-year deal. Everton appoint Rafael Benitez as manager, the former Liverpool manager. I'm sure that's gone down well on the in the red half of Liverpool, Mark. Patson at Dhaka, Leicester sign exciting Zambian striker from Red Bull Salzburg. Fernandinho, Manchester City captain, signs 1-year contract extension. Moving on to the next one. Jadon Sancho, Man United agree 73 million fee with Borussia Dortmund for England winger. Much in demand as well, obviously. Tottenham bring in Nuno Espirito Santo as new manager after a very long delay of getting a manager appointed. Emmanuel Denis, Watford signed Nigeria forward from Club Brugge, a player we know Saints were linked with, Mark, not so long ago. And Premier League to help deliver 2,000 defibrillators to grassroots football clubs. Absolutely brilliant news. Comes off the back of the Christian Eriksen situation, obviously. We then move on to the Championship. And Scott Parker appointed Bournemouth head coach after leaving Fulham. And European football news. Away goal rules scrapped in UEFA competitions, including the Champions League. So there we go. Very interesting. So starting in the Premier League, and we start with Kieran Tierney signs new long-term deal reported to be 5 years. Not a massive surprise, not.
No, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Arsenal are in a bit of a lull at the moment in terms of European football. Some Arsenal fans might argue being competitive. And you would probably have to say that one of their better performers when fit is certainly, Kieran Tierney. And you can understand, trying to move forward or at least build something substantial for them. Obviously, Kieran Tierney is part of that exercise. So there's no real surprise that, he signed this new long-term deal of 5 years, and you would expect him probably to be there for the majority of it. I mean, he's definitely one of Scotland's better exports into the Premier League in recent years.
Absolutely.
Along with our own Stuart Armstrong, by the way, I might add.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Robertson, who obviously is at Liverpool. But it's a good move on Arsenal's part because obviously you want to keep hold of your better players.
Absolutely. So moving on to Burnley. Burnley have signed Stoke City defender Nathan Collins on a 4-year deal. Yeah,
so this one is your typical Burnley signing.
Yeah.
Right? Because years ago they used to talk about Everton and they were labelled the dogs of war, right? And the thing is, love him or hate him, Sean Dyche is very good at identifying players that fit the mould of how he wants to play football. Togetherness on the pitch, very much a team ethic, structure, and everything else. And commitment is the key, the key word. And obviously, work rate. And I've got to be honest with you, I just think that Nathan Collins will fit in perfectly. I mean, obviously, he's a bit younger than normally the sort of player that Burnley goes for. So although I'm not seeing a transfer fee, obviously it was a 4-year deal, and you could also say, I suppose, he's one for the future, although I don't want to use that name tag. No. But Nathan Collins has played sufficient games at Stoke in the Championship, so the step up, I actually think, should be pretty straightforward for him at Burnley, because surely going there, he knows what they expect, and and he knows what the club expect of him.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Right, moving on to Everton. Everton have appointed Rafael Benitez as manager. The 61-year-old Spaniard has signed a 3-year deal and succeeds Carlo Ancelotti, who resigned in June to return to Real Madrid. He said, "I'm delighted to be joining Everton. Yeah, it's the usual blah, blah, blah. I believe this is a club that's going places. I'm determined to play a big part in helping this great club achieve its ambitions." Sounds almost identical to the statement he made when he took over at Newcastle. Oh, and every other club he's joined. Anyway, over to you, Mark.
This one's interesting. I mean, are we actually gonna see? Because obviously there's Everton fans that are reluctant for the appointment, given his links with Liverpool, and it's one of those where I sort of sit there and I look at it and I think to myself, great appointment by Everton. What funds are going to be made available? Is there, is he really going to be in a situation where he's going to be able to compete? And I'm talking about in the longer term. I'm not talking about right now. But is Rafa Benitez going to be able to compete against Liverpool's spending power? I know Everton have a very wealthy owner, but it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I mean, the thing is you point Rafa Benitez. I've got to say that you'd probably think to yourself, with an appointment like that. And I know they had a Carlo Ancelotti there, but obviously Carlo Ancelotti unfortunately used Everton as a little bit of a stepping stone to go back to Real Madrid, which, as we have covered in this show, was a bit of a strange one, considering he fell out with one of the managing directors at Real Madrid. But anyway, going back to Rafa Benitez, I mean, I'm just curious to see whether he's given the tools to do the job, because I think one of the things that even going into this first season, Rafa will be trying to achieve would be, some kind of European football. Now, when I say European football, I'm not talking about the EuroLeague 2. I'm talking about playing in the EuroLeague or an outside chance of Champions League. I can't believe I'm saying that. But all I'm trying to say is Everton were close to achieving the goal last season, and unfortunately towards the end of the run-in, they started losing games at home. So it'd be interesting to see who Everton bring in, because I think I'm right in saying that James Rodriguez has left. And obviously Carlo Ancelotti's gone. So, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of players Rafa's be able to bring in the first season, and whether they'll be able to compete again for a European spot this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, Patson Daka. Leicester signed exciting Zambian striker from Red Bull Salzburg. Leicester have signed Zambia striker Patson Daka from Red Bull Salzburg on a 5-year deal, thought to be worth around 22 million. He scored 27 goals in 28 appearances last season to help Red Bull Salzburg win their 4th successive Austrian League title. I can hear a few people going, yeah, but it's only the Austrian League. But even so, Mark, I think that's where Mane came from, didn't he? It's not a bad place to come from.
100%. Yeah, when I tell you, just in case people are thinking that, I mean, you've got to say that Red Bull, whether it's Leipzig or Salzburg, right? They score. It's a little bit like Borussia Dortmund. They score the globe for the best up and coming talents, and they sign those players, that develop them, and then they get moved on for whopping prices. I mean, if I was a Leicester fan, given that they have owners that back the football club, no doubt about it. I mean, I would be excited about this just to even see what he's all about.
Yeah.
Is, like you said, we signed Mane from Red Bull Salzburg, and you kind of wish we were still able to operate in that market, but unfortunately, because we had a director of football who spent all the money that would accrued, we're not in that position. But yes, I'm very. I mean, as a neutral supporter, I'm interested to see what sort of impact he can make. Because certainly over in Austria, he looks very exciting talent. But obviously, you wonder whether he'll be able to make the transition to the Premier League. But
absolutely,
I would imagine, £22 million. That's not an insignificant amount of money.
Yep. So, moving on. Manchester City has kind of been here before with Vincent Kompany. Fernandinho has signed a 1-year contract extension, Mark.
Yeah.
He'll be the next one out the door at City, I guess.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, I take my hat off to him, because people talk about Vincent Kompany and they talk about Aguero and the amount of time that they spent there. Now, Fernandinho's been there, I think, 8 years already. Yeah. This will be his 9th season at the football club. And if he extends again, obviously he should be getting a testimonial. But what I was going to say was, I'm not necessarily that surprised, because obviously he hints that the job's only half done, Mark. And I think that's in blatant reference to, the Champions League. So obviously he wants another bite at the cherry at that. And that's from his point of view, he'll be hoping that Manchester City do that. I'm surprised that he's signed on for another year. No, not really, because the rumours were that even if he hung up his boots this season, he was going to move into the coaching side at Manchester City anyway. Yep. Obviously, I think in terms of continuity and everything else, because he very much gets the club, I'm not surprised that he's signed on for the extra year.
So, moving on, Jadon Sancho. Man United have agreed a 73 million fee with Borussia Dortmund for the England winner, who hasn't played for Euro 2020 yet.
Yeah, I mean,
they're saving him for the semi-final.
I mean, all I would say is I get where you're coming from with that remark, but what I would say is this, Mark. I mean, at the end of the day, Man United aren't signing him on the basis of his England performances. So, it's more to do with his performances in the Bundesliga and with Borussia Dortmund. And
absolutely,
again, he's had a very impressive season with them. 5-year contract, we had option of 6, 21 years of age. I mean, I suppose you just sort of kind of sit there and wait to see, how good he translates in the Premier League.
Absolutely.
I'm sure United fans are cop a hoop about it, though. But let's see how he goes. But if he transfers his Bundesliga form to the Premier League, it won't be an issue for him. That's all I would say.
Okay, moving on from there, Tottenham Hotspur have finally appointed a new manager. They've appointed Nuno Espirito Santo as their new manager on a 2-year contract. He left Wolves in May after 4 impressive seasons, during which time he took the club from the Championship to Europa League quarter-final. Spurs sacked Jose Mourinho in April and replaced him with 21-year-old Ryan Mason until the end of the season. It's an enormous pleasure and honour to be at Spurs. I'm happy and looking forward to starting work, said Nuno.
Right, well,
that's after a slew of other managers apparently turned them down.
Well, all I would say is Mark, normally, right, I wouldn't care because it's Tottenham, right? But the fact that it's Nuno and he's such an honourable bloke, you know, we covered some of the stories in relation to him during the pandemic and the fact that he gave £250,000 to the good people of Wolverhampton. The thing is putting club rivalries and everything else aside, you know, I wish him well in the job. I don't wish him too well, but I wish him well in the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is nice to have you back, Nuno, because I think you were poorly and abominably treated by Wolves. I mean, you know, he was missing his main striker, Ralph Jimenez, for a majority of the season, you know, and it was unlikely that he was going to repeat 7th place in the Premier League twice, by the way. You know, it was unlikely because Ralph Jimenez was missing that he was going to repeat that. So, you know, he was treated very poorly by Wolves, but I am glad to see him back in the Premier League with Tottenham, and I hope everything works out. And I hope that during the time that he's been without a club, he's been able to go back to Portugal and see his family. Because I know he hadn't been back to see his family since the pandemic struck, and obviously that has an impact, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So, moving on. Emmanuel Denis, Watford signed Nigeria forward from Club Brugge. As a player the Saints were apparently linked with not so long ago, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I mean, you know, all I'm going to say, Mark, and you're going to hear these mortal words when we talk about the Norwich transfer, which I know only sent you today. Yeah. But it does make you think to yourself, have we fallen so badly financially that we are effectively the worst off Premier League club when it comes to doing transfers? Now, the proof is in the eating. I know it's early doors yet. We've only got to the 1st of July. I believe there may be people that are incoming and all the rest of it. But I look at this and I sort of sit and think to myself, Emmanuel Dennis, I mean, personally, I kind of think he wouldn't have been somebody that I would have necessarily targeted for Saints anyway. But you do wonder where we are in the pecking order when it comes to players and transfers and stuff like that. Because like I said, I know we're going to be bringing up another person that was on Saints' radar. And I have to say, I'm slightly more disappointed about that one than about this one. But again, it's probably a good signing for Watford. They want them to hit the ground running. Certainly, he looks like he can be an explosive player. He's going to need to be a bit like that in the Premier League. But all I would say is he's coming from the Belgium League. And all I would say is you look at Djenepo, who's come from the Belgium League, and I'm not sure that Djenepo's transformation to the Premier League and the Southampton Football Club has necessarily been a productive one. It was initially, but it sort of kind of has tailed off.
Yeah, I think the physicality's had an impact on him, to be fair. So, yeah, we'll move on to the Norwich deal as well, because this is, I'm quite annoyed about this, actually. Milo Rashica, who's been related to the same sort of style of play as Dusan Tadic, very similar sort of player. I'm quite disappointed by this. He's gone to Norwich on a 4-year deal, £9 million. Saints nowhere to be seen. And if we're not even competing at 9 million level, we are in serious trouble.
See, here's the thing for me, right? I can understand maybe why Saints weren't interested in Emmanuel Dennis, because again, he's coming from the Belgium league. But here's a player, plays in a struggling side. Werder Bremen got relegated, right? And I'm sure we reported on the programme that if Werder Bremen got relegated, this guy was on a cup price deal of £9 million, right? Under normal circumstances, you'd probably be paying anywhere between 20-25 million pound. And I know we're looking for someone that's creative, i.e. Ralph says a winger, but it's definitely somebody I would have been looking at. I mean, he scores goals in a struggling team. Admittedly, Werder Bremen, as I say, got relegated, but you look at his goals and assists and stuff like that, and you think to yourself, £9 million. I mean, how much of a risk is that?
Exactly.
You know, at the age he is too, he's only 22 or something, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's only young.
You know,
yeah, he's about 22.
And again, you wonder where we are, you know, in the pecking order of things in terms of clubs, finances, and stuff like that.
Well, the thing is, as well, Mark, he does actually fit. He does actually fit what Ralph said he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, Mark, is you know, they're aware of him. They've been tracking him. So you know, you kind of think to yourself, all right, they might have moved on to different targets.
Well, let's hope so. And I tell you what, though, if they haven't signed him for £9 million, they must be signing an absolute worldie.
But my main concern is, I look at this stuff, and you know, I know it's early days yet. Like I said, the window's only open, but you wonder where we are in terms of the pecking order. Because
well, we ain't even got left
when I read stuff like this, I kind of think to myself, are we actually the bottom financially?
Well, in all fairness, Mark, I think we probably are, because, well, in all fairness, I know the window's only just opened, but at the end of the day, we've known the first target we needed before the window even opened, and we still haven't got him in place. So for me, we're not prepared again at the moment. I hope I'm proved wrong, but something tells me we're not prepared again. Anyway, moving on to the next story.
Yeah.
The Premier League are to help deliver 2,000 defibrillators to grassroots football clubs. Around 1.5 million more people than before will have access to automated external defibrillators at grassroots venues as part of the Premier League initiative. This comes off the back of what happened with Christian Eriksen in the Euros. Absolutely fantastic. Something I've been calling for myself at grassroots level as well, with the club I was with, or any other club I end up in the future. It's got to be done, and it's great news.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say on it.
All I'm going to say on it, Mark, is much needed. Much
Definitely.
needed, you know, and
100%.
And that's all.
Yeah, and moving on to Championship news, Scott Parker appointed Bournemouth head coach after leaving Fulham. Probably the worst kept secret in the entire English football pyramid, to be fair.
Funnily enough, Mark, that was going to be my opening comment.
Oh, sorry, mate.
Because over the last, I think over at least the last month, this has been touted. And eventually, Bournemouth have got their man. I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised, because you sort of sit there and you think, are the tools not in place at Fulham? You know, Fulham's just came down. Bournemouth have had a season, you know, in the Championship. And as I predicted, you know, he moves in and Jonathan Woodgate gets his contract terminated, which I kind of thought that would happen if they didn't get promoted. But yeah, I mean, it's just a bit of a curious one, because I sort of sit there and I think, you know, the tools probably are in place. You know, it can't be about the owners, because they're both well-off owners. I mean, Fulham and Bournemouth both have well-off owners, so
must make you wonder what Eddie Howe makes of it.
It's just a strange one, but obviously I would say it's a better appointment. It's an upgrade for Bournemouth in the sense of what they had before. But I think if you're a Fulham fan, you kind of scratching your head thinking, why has he left us? Why does he think Bournemouth for a better bet than sticking with us?
Right, so moving on to the next article. Away goals rule scrapped in UEFA competitions, including the Champions League. I thought that's what made the Champions League some of the others. That's a strange one, but anyway.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those ones that you think to yourself, why do you need to make the adjustment? You know, why do you feel the need to sort of sit there and go, right, let's, you know, change the structure effectively is what we're talking about, Mark, isn't it? You know, and the thing is I suppose it'll be more exciting for the fans because it means that games will drag on. You have lots more extra time and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a curious one where I sort of sit there and think, why make a change when it's not necessary? When it's not completely necessary?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's been their problem throughout the entire season and a bit we've just been through. So that brings that section to a close. We're going to have a very short break and we're going to do Saints transfer gossip for you after that up till the end of the show. We'll be right back.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, Saints transfer gossip. Saints reportedly closing in on French fullback Romain Perraud. Deal is likely to be done by the weekend, we'd like to believe. Saints reportedly in the race for young Chelsea fullback. This is, sorry, bear with me. This would be Tino Livramento from Chelsea. Also, outs. Age reportedly an issue in Lemina's proposed move to Newcastle. Oh, is it now? There's a surprise. New deal signing. Alex McCarthy reportedly set contract for a long-term contract at Saints. Set to commit his long-term future. I wish it had been Danny Ings, not him, but there we go. And James Beattie among 4 names added to the Wigan coaching staff, and I'm quite gutted about that one. But anyway, starting with the ins. Saints reportedly closing in on French fullback Romain Perraud. Mark, this has gone on longer than Matt Holland's alleged medical at Southampton, but apparently it's set to be done by the weekend. And Saints reportedly closing in on Tino Livramento.
Yeah, so just I'll do those two first then. So basically, I mean, how long is this going to go on with the French left back from Brest? I mean,
well, I can tell you this much, Mark. He didn't actually take part in their last training session.
Yeah, that probably tells you that he's on his way somewhere. Of course, I'm assuming that obviously the deal's been wrapped up by now.
I can tell you this much. I can tell you this: his last training session would have been Tuesday, and he didn't appear.
Yeah, well, as I say, let's hope that that this one gets cleared up and over the line now, because we are in the official date time for signing players and everything else. And the thing is you get the rhetoric every season, in the summer, we're going to do our business early. I know that people sign pre-contracts and, all the rest of it. I mean, but yeah, let's just hope that this gets done quickly, because it's something that obviously is much needed. And he does look like he's quite competent, quite good, from what I've seen of him. Obviously, you then have to wait to see if that translates when he plays in the Premier League. But let's hope that it does, and let's get the deal, done, signed, and delivered.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So, Tino Livramento from Chelsea.
Yeah, Mark, this one baffles.
I have no idea who it is.
This one baffles me, the kingdom come, right? So here's where I am with this one. So he's a right back, okay? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He's 17 years of age, and, to all intents and purposes, it seems the talk is that he's going to be, our backup. And I'm sat there going, why would Saints sign him? And I'm saying no to this. I'm saying Saints won't do it, because why would you send Kane Ramsey, right, who we thought was going to be the backup right back? Why would you send him out on loan? And he's older. So to all intents and purposes, you would say he's more experienced. Ralph is seen as being somebody who gives youth a chance. it sends out completely the wrong message if we're bringing in a 17-year-old from Chelsea. I'm sitting there thinking he must be some sort of Cafu if we're bringing him in, because he'd need to be to convince me that he's, because I don't understand. I would understand that if they turned around and said we're bringing in this person, but a 17-year-old over, Kane Ramsey. I mean, okay, I don't necessarily think Kane Ramsey's got a future at Saints, but surely he's a better option than bringing in a 17-year-old from the Chelsea academy, effectively.
Absolutely right. Unbelievable, isn't it? So, moving on. Newcastle United's move for Saints midfielder Mario Lemina has reportedly reached deadlock over his age. The Daily Mail claims talks have been ongoing between the club regarding the midfielder. Newcastle owner Mike Ashley is reluctant to pay a fee for players over the age of 27. What a surprise.
The thing, right, the first thing was when I read this, Mark, right, I thought to myself, is this story believable? Right? And initially I thought, nonsense, right? And then I thought, Mike Ashley, he's too old, I don't want him. And then I thought, yeah, it's believable. It's actually believable. But the thing is it leaves Saints in the place probably where they don't want to be, because I would imagine, I know that we're hearing that, Ralph wants to give Lemina and El Sanusi the pre-season to prove themselves sort of thing, or have a look at them, see if he can adapt them into the side. Or
that side of it I get. All I'm going to say is, if Ralph Hasenhüttl manages to change Mario Lemina's attitude and make him a Saints player, then fair play to Ralph, he deserves a knighthood.
It's not happening though, is it?
Ridiculous.
Let's be honest. When you look at how Mario conducts himself, right, you kind of know that Mario's, a force of nature.
I've seen Mario Lemina playing for Saints, Mark, as you have. I've seen Mario Lemina outside St Mary's. He does not care about Southampton Football Club. I can tell you that now. And he does not care about the Saints fans.
I wouldn't say he doesn't care about the Saints fans. I think I get where you're coming from with the general, but I mean, I just think that that's maybe part of the cultural thing, because when he turns up, he's always got an entourage with him. But I mean, that's family, and that's being away, away from your own surroundings and stuff like that. So, I don't really lambast him for that. But I agree with you. It's whether Ralph can get him to knuckle down and get on with things. And the thing is it's not just that. He's consistently inconsistent, and you only get one good performance out of him in every 5. So good luck with that, Ralph, and let's see what happens, is what I would say there.
Yeah, I wish him the best of luck, because tell you what, if he's managed to get a tune out of an average squad, if he manages to get Mario Lemina on side, then he really is a fantastic manager. He really is the Messiah. So anyway, moving on. Alex McCaffrey reportedly set to commit his long-term future to the Southampton Football Club. Yay!
Anyway, Mark, my general feeling on this is, right, they've got 2 goalkeepers who are out of contract next summer, right? It's the ideal opportunity for Saints to have a little bit of a sea change in the goalkeeping department, as far as I'm concerned. Now, all right, you might be nervous about people being out of contract and everything else, and there may be difficulties in terms of financial recruitment. So it would make sense to give someone a contract. If I had my way, I wouldn't be giving either of them a contract. And I don't agree with Ralph whenever he turns around and says, going in the next season, we're still going to have this rotation of goalkeepers, because I don't think that works neither.
I happen to agree with a friend of ours from the show, Andrew Bartlett, because I think he hit on a really good target that I think Saints could have gone for. Areola at Fulham, I think, would have been a great keeper for us.
It's a bit, again, Mark, it comes down to having the money. And after we signed Theo Walcott, I was under the impression there must be a little bit of money about the club. And now, I've got to tell you, I'm convinced that there's absolutely nothing. But we'll see what happens.
I'm not convinced of that. I'm convinced of the fact we like wasting it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I wouldn't be giving Alex McCarthy a new contract. But the club, right, the thing is the club are being very cautious in the sense that they know there's not unlimited funds there. So it's better to recruit one goalkeeper than two next summer.
In all honesty,
if I had my way, both of them would be leaving next summer.
But in all fairness, given his form at Tottenham and the fact he was available on a free transfer, I probably would have got Paolo back on a free.
No, I wouldn't have. But again, that's a choice thing. But I wouldn't have.
Free transfer, but anyway. Well, I can think of one specific Saints fan who would have been happy to see that, but yeah, we won't name names, but I can think of a certain female fan who would have been over the moon to see Gaz Nigger back at Southampton, but because I know she's a bit of a fan. But anyway, going on to the last article out of all of the Saints news, James Beattie, who's just been appointed as the Saints Foundation ambassador, is among 4 names added to the Wigan coaching staff. So I'm sure the Saints Foundation are ecstatic.
Yeah.
I'm gutted because I wanted to see him at Southampton as a striking coach.
There we were a couple of weeks ago praising him and thinking, yeah, okay, he's decided finally that he is going to make his roots in Southampton, and boom, soon as somebody offers him a new job back in football, I can't blame him. I'm being a bit tongue-in-cheek. I don't blame him, right? So, because we've all got to earn a crust at the end of the day. So obviously, he's been given the opportunity back, coaching with the bloke, funnily enough, that he replaced at Accrington Stanley as manager. And I know they're both good friends. And I would wish him all the best. But
absolutely,
the good news about this, people, is we won't have Mark on the pod or anywhere else for that matter suggesting the Saints that they need to bring James Beattie in as a goal striking coach. I know I'll probably agree with the sentiment, but at least that one's dead in the water for the time being.
Unbelievable. No, look, I wish him all the best. And I wasn't shouting these calls because it would have been good for Shay Adams. You and I both know that. And we agree on that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Look, it's got to go with the money, and I get that. But it's a slightly longer commute to Wigan, James, than it was anywhere else. So, but yeah, I do wish him the best. Loved him as a Saints player, and he's just a good ambassador for the game. So that brings us to an end the podcast for today. So it's goodbye from me.
And yeah, it's goodbye from me. Take care of one another. Thanks for tuning in and listening. And just be kind to one another out there, okay?
Absolutely.
After each other. Bye.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just a quick reminder of the 2 Saints Fantasy Football League codes. So the head-to-head league code is this one. I4FD0Y. And the classic league code is this one. MQAFOS. And just to remind you, the email address for the show, the 2 Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for any questions around Saints or any future features you'd like to see. And obviously, the ways to access the podcast are as follows.
Just to remind you all, you can contact us via our email address, the 2 Saints Podcast Show at outlook.com, for questions or items you'd like to hear in future shows. You can listen to the radio show on Fiesta 95 FM in Southampton and via onlineradiobox.com. Also, the 2 Saints Podcast Show is now available via Spotify, SoundCloud, Overcast, Acast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music and Podbean, or via our Facebook page, The 2 Saints Show, and our YouTube channel, The 2 Saints Podcast Show.
There we go. The only thing left for me to say is join 2 Saints at the Euros when they go marching again next week. Bye for now.
Cheers, everybody. Bye.